Willow Creek Springs presents Healthy Living with your host, Joe Grumbine.
All right, and welcome to the Healthy Living Podcast brought to you by Willow Creek Springs. I am Joe Grumbine, and I will be your host, and I have back again Richard McCuen. Richard, welcome back. How are you doing? It seems like forever.
Yeah, thanks for having me back.
It's my pleasure, my pleasure. All right, let me get rid of this background here. All right, here we go. So we were just talking, this is sort of a, what do they call it, a double header. And we were talking about your Biohack 40 program and just sort of getting caught up. And one of the things that I wanted to jump into real quick is nutrition and this program. So I've been working for almost 5 years now on intermittent fasting as a way to help make myself healthy. And you were talking about in private about when you push yourself to a stress point, physically, your body responds by getting stronger, and your body responds by it changes things. Your body creates hormones, your body creates things so that it can deal with these stresses. And there's different ways to do that. So one is like your program of physical exercise, doing the 1,000 push-ups or whatever exercises that you're doing, stressing your body physically. Another way you can do it is by extreme temperatures, going into a hot sauna, jumping into a cold plunge or a cold pool. By just doing those things, your body senses a stress and it reacts. And one of the things it does is called apoptosis, where your body basically kills off the weak and damaged cells so that it can give energy to the good and healthy cells. And you can actually sort of reset your genetic code, or so they say, by putting yourself into these stresses. Well, fasting does the same thing. So your body consumes food in a particular way, and it'll eat sugars first because they're readily available, convert them right into glucose and give you strength and energy and feed your brain. And then after that, it'll tap into glycogen, which is stored energy that you have inside your muscles from what you ate yesterday, more or less. And then after that, your body will shift into burning reserves, which are fats. And one of the things that I've learned is by intermittent fasting, or stretching the amount of time between you have a meal, is you don't keep the sugar going in your body all the time, so your body's not constantly storing it. You get yourself to where your body has to shift into those reserves. And the more often you can do that, you start tapping those reserves. And number one, you'll start losing those little muffin tops and flabbiness, and it'll tap into those things, which is nice because you don't want to have those things. But most importantly is causing your body to be in a more effective mode. Like you talked about beast mode, but that beast mode needs energy to run on. And because no matter how strong you are, you still need fuel. You don't have fuel, you don't have energy, you're not going to be able to do it.
Yeah, so, sustainable energy.
So I know there's lots of different ways to approach this. And what I was telling you about was, and I've been dabbling with different things. So sometimes in the morning before I get started, I'll eat a banana, or I eat a piece of fruit, or I'll eat something. And I make a coffee that's called a bulletproof coffee, where I take butter and I put it into the coffee and I whip it up. And there's a whole science behind it. I'll talk about that too.
Butter?
Butter. Good.
Oh.
Yeah. There's a whole science behind it, and I've been doing it for years, and it works. So what happens when you take that butter, the Tibetan monks do this with yak butter, and they whip it up and they mix it into their tea, and they're able to go long periods of time walking up and down the mountains in Tibet without eating. And that butter provides a particular kind of energy that's sustainable for a long period of time. And so that's my main fuel that I drink in the morning. And sometimes lately I started putting coconut cream in there and a scoop of protein powder, collagen protein. So it's
more brain sensitive than body.
Well,
Like
your
the
body will
the
take
chemical
it.
breakdown, and like with the butter, I think
Yeah,
it's sustainable. It's more like
it,
neurological, you know?
your brain will consume it because I mean your body will take it and process it, but it's good for your brain. But it has to be good quality butter. It has to be good grass-fed butter, organic. Most butter's shit. It has to be
Sure.
top quality, or you're wasting your time. So those are sort of components to it. And sometimes I put a little shot of MCT oil in it too. And again, that's another thing that your body can take and convert into energy and feed your brain at the same time. So your brain consumes a huge amount of glucose most of the time. Your brain actually consumes most of the calories that you take, that you expend during the day, unless you're working out real heavy. Your brain is constantly burning fuel. So when you get tired and grumpy and whatever, that's all just because your brain didn't get what it needed, or it got clogged up with other crap. So lately what I've been doing is, I've gone back and forth and eat something or don't, but my coffee, I generally make that coffee packed up, and that's my fuel. And lately I started with my Fireball. I've just taken one little squirt of that right between my first and second set, and I noticed the difference in that as well. I have another formula that I'm working on right now that's a pre-workout formula, and it's a deviation from the Fireball. So I'm playing with that right now too. So I'll be sending you some of that soon. Yeah.
Yeah, the Fireball is freaking awesome.
So I want to hear your thoughts on all of this, and most importantly, we're talking about mindset, and really, this is, as much as it's about your body, it is, everything's about your mind. Like everything, your whole existence, your attitude, your ability to do things. There's nothing that's not your mind.
Exactly. So like, okay, what this, like breaking down so somebody's just sitting there laid up, even if they're in a wheelchair, from an injury, a car accident, they broke their leg, whatever your situation is, if it's physical, you can heal. And it starts from just, day one push up, one step, that one thought. So right now, I mean, I've done ridiculous amounts of push-ups, and I've exhausted myself, and what I'm capable of. But there's been one
How
thing that
many
I've
is the
never been
most
able
you've
to.
done in one sitting? Where not saying that you did them without stopping, but doing repetitive sets with small breaks between. What's the most you've done just in one lump?
What, 5,000?
No shit.
Yeah,
Wow.
and it's just staying with the same routine on 1,000.
Wow.
What how I got
You
from
just popped my
1,000.
whole bubble.
It's a true story.
I believe it.
5,000. It took me probably 3 hours, right around. I think it was a little over 3 hours. I
Wow.
did 5,000, and I just kept the 20-20-10.
How
And
long ago was that?
that was 2.5 years ago.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I'm
you were
right around
still
there.
right around 50.
Yeah, and it was, like at my girlfriend at the time, she's just like, "You've done enough. Why you want to do any more?" I said, "All right, I promise I won't do any more." But there was just that something sitting on my shoulder, like, "Hey, you got one more? Let's do one more." So I
And
said,
you
"All
were
right,
just
I'll do
trying to
it."
see how many you could do? Is that what you were doing?
Yeah, and in a session, like as a
Right.
workout, instead of taking the entire day to do your workout, like
Yeah.
I went from that and then did it as a workout. Like if you go to the gym, you have an hour to work out.
Right.
So I would try to crush that hour and crush the 1,000.
Right.
Once
That's
you
what
get
we
to
were
that,
just
then it was
talking
like,
about. Yeah.
right. So right now, I want to be able to do one push up and bang out 100 in one set without stopping, just from 1 to 100 without stopping. It's
Yeah.
very, very hard. I don't know. There's probably many people who probably can do it. So that's a big challenge. So how do I prep for that, or how do you
Yeah.
instead of saying, "Oh my God, I can't do that," it's all in your
50 is a lot.
preparation.
I can do 50, but
Right.
that's a lot. When you get
And
done with
it's like,
50, like
you know,
shit.
and
I
you're
don't
in the
think that's a
military,
lot.
you just don't talk about going to war.
Right.
You prep, you know, where you're going, what the environment's going to be like, what's your tactics and all this. So when you're going to go into a workout, especially with an injury, you want to plan your battle plan
Right.
and put it down. What's going to get me from point A to point B? And then when you start working that, and you can go through at whatever your start point, midpoint, or wherever, if something's not working, you can change it, you know, and say, oh, I need to do it this way. But you have to have a starting point. So that starting point is that number one. So if you want to go to 1,000 and that's your title, scratch out those 3 zeros because you're going to have the one. That's where you got to
Right.
start. So don't think about what's later. So how do you build to where, when I was doing 1,000, what we were talking about prior episode, is that's all I was doing was just straight push-ups, 1,000 amount of time, and it become monotonous, and it was starting to get more challenging in the mind because it was like starting to get agitating, like just 1,000. I need to break it up. So how do I, you know, like daily life? So I started, well, I'm going to do like a 200, 300 rep, you know, shoulder, just pick a body part and add to the 1,000, you know, push-ups. So if I did started with, you know, say I did shoulders, 300 reps. When I first started in the first 300 push-ups, I learned that that's not a good idea to add something else because you burn yourself out
Right.
before you get to your mark.
Right.
So after I waited till after 300 push-ups to where, because those are what I call the dirty bastards. The three dirty bastards, because that first 300, it's gonna make or break you. You
Right.
know, you can get past that 300, you beat the mental push.
Okay.
So then you can start focusing on what you got to do. And so after the 300 push-ups, it's like a warm-up pretty much, and then your body's loose, and then it can take on the added stressors. So it's
Okay.
just going to work, you know, you put all that energy into going to work. Now, so
Right.
you get to work, and wham, you get hit with deadlines and everything else, and you don't understand that pressure because you can't handle it.
Right.
So that's where you know, you build in your battle plan. Whenever that pressure comes, the body doesn't need to resist; it knows how to push through.
Got it.
So that was my marker. You know, after I hit 300 push-ups in the 1,000 is whenever I would do my 300, and I would do it. So if I did 20 push-ups, 20 push-ups, then 10 push-ups, that was one set. Then that's on my second set, I would start and I'd do like 20 dumbbells, you know, overhead raises, and then that was a
Something
set.
else.
And
Got it.
I would, because I had 700 push-ups to go. I didn't have to burn myself out to do the 300. I could stretch it.
Were you counting those other exercises towards your push-ups, or were you doing that
No.
on top of it?
So pretty much it's like 1,300 repetitions and movement, but you're only doing 1,000 push-ups.
You're only catching 1,000 credit.
Right. Yeah, you only give yourself that 1,000 credit, because what that's doing is it teaches the body to respond to unordinary things. You know, picking up a box, doing this, or your tire breaks down on the, you know, gets flat on the side of the road, and you've got to, you know, manually do that. You have to
It's
have
like
that ability and the
training
strength.
in the military when you're training for whatever, you know, some kind of an assault. You go through and you practice, and they throw things at you, and you have to be the one. Like, you're not just grunting yourself under the razor wire. People are throwing crap at you too, and you have to be able to not only get under that, but, you know, protect yourself or whatever. I mean, you know, that's the military figured that out a long time ago, and it's good sense, you know. I mean, a lot of people think weird things about the military, good, bad, or sideways, but one thing they figured out is how to get things done. And if you need to get something done, it's going to make the difference between coming out victorious or being a loser and maybe dying. And so you pretty much got to win, or you might not make it. So they've gotten pretty good at solving problems like that.
Yeah, it's like you know, put a 50 cal in my hand and put me on a range and give me one bullet. I'm gonna shoot that one bullet like I've shot 1,000 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because I have that muscle memory.
Right.
Oh, but
You have
so
shot
how
a
do you
thousand
teach?
of them.
Yeah, yeah. How do you teach that person the same mentality as where you are, where they don't play that catch up,
Right.
and then all in the positioning of the assist and where you start in your mentality.
Well, and you can
So
use that to your advantage. So, like I was saying, some days you get up, like I was telling you how I switched over to a 4 on 3 off program. But when I sit down on a Tuesday morning at 4:20 in the morning and I'm like, okay, here we go. That first getting in position is the hardest part about the whole thing.
oh yeah.
From I'm not doing it to now I'm doing it. The second you do that first one, you're in. And so mentally though, you tell yourself, well, no big deal. You just did it last time, you're fine. And your muscle memory kicks in and you're like, yeah, it's not so bad. You get through that
Right.
first, you're like, oh, all right, well, let's do this.
Yeah, it's like they wake us up at 4:30 in the morning, readily, get out formation in like 15 minutes to go run. At 4:30 in the morning, we're gonna go run 4, 5, 6, whatever, depending on the mentality. But we're gonna go and we're gonna crush ourselves at 4:30. You don't feel I used to hate it, but man, after you started midway through the run or you finished, you felt awesome. You felt great. And you felt great before anybody else was awake.
Exactly.
So it's like once you push past that, I don't feel good, and you do it anyway.
Right.
You have that better turnaround to whenever you do have that type of pain, you're gonna deal with the pain instead of put it off. So like what I said with the 1,000, back to my preparation, like how do you start so I could do one push up and then do and me might go 40 push-ups. So just like I'm doing 100 straight, 100 push-ups straight. Right now I can't do it. I've dropped and I've done 75 and I burn out. It's just I'm being honest. Even after all the push-ups I've done at one setting, 75 is my max.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I take my body weight and divide it in half, and that's the dumbbells weight that I'm pressing.
Okay.
And I'm doing 300 reps with half my body weight. That way, whenever I am pushing and I get to that halfway mark, like 50, because now I have 50 more. So if I'm burning out at 50, it means it's going to be a burnout next 50.
Right.
So if I could crush that at half my weight, then I'll be able to achieve the other end of it.
I can see it. Yeah.
So I'm going to do that for probably about a week, 2 weeks, and then I'm just going to drop down and see if I could hit the 100. If not, then I'm going to increase to 3/4 of my body weight, and do it, and then achieve it. So that's like the preparation. Okay, I have to be able to do these things to that way I can achieve this goal, and that's the best way to achieve anything is to put it further away from you, out of thought, like your goal. If your goal is 1,000, put it at 1,001, like put your hand above your head until you're on your tippy toes and you fall over. That's where you want to start. That's where you want to start your goal. That's where you want to start your healing. Why? Because that's where you want to go. That's where everything feels better. You already know you feel like shit.
Right.
So take away the shit, in your mind, so that you can achieve that higher greatness. And once you hit that, 90 days, it pretty much biohacks your entire system. And I don't care, like anybody can challenge me in anything. I ain't scared of no man. It's physical or whatever, it's like bring it on, and that's like attacking life, and that's one of my buddies. He just recently passed from MLS. That was his thing, is attack life, and so that's pretty much what it'll do. No matter what situation you put yourself in or you think that you're in, every other single individual is in the same position. You're struggling on bills, you're struggling with your weight, you're struggling with your health. You don't like how you feel up here. No one's alone. You're not alone. And that's what this is about. It's teaching you that it's everything that I went through, no one should have went through.
Right.
but what was built through that process, you know. And it's like a lot of people they'll say, "Oh man, you look great," you know, or "How are you able to do this?" You know, and you're, you know, disabled or whatever. It's like a perception, you know,
Right.
instead of like just, you know, Mike Tyson or any heavyweight champion or any, you know, high end athlete, you know, what does it take to get to them in that greatness? Nobody knows what they go through behind closed doors. All
Yeah,
the hours they spend in the ring, you know, killing,
exactly.
crushing bones and splitting teeth, and you know, the concussions and everything else that goes along with it,
Right.
just for 3 minutes of fame. You know,
Exactly.
and that's what how you're judged, based on those 3 minutes.
That's
You know,
it.
and it's
Yep.
like we're all human beings. Whether you're a cop, you're a firefighter, you're a teacher, that's
Right.
how you judge. You know, it's like, no, you come to work, that person has an attitude or don't feel good. It's like, you know what? I didn't freaking feel good either. You know, it's
Right.
like, but we all bottle it up like it's, we don't associate with anybody else. So it opens yourself up to where you'll find what you have to deal with, and then it'll teach you how to deal with it. And it pretty much, you're teaching yourself, you know, and it teaches you one repetition after another, that teaches you better thought process
Well,
of
one thing
aligning
that
yourself.
I'm noticing, you know, again, I'm on my own journey, you're on your own journey, and hopefully us sharing this show will, you know, get other people not only to see that it can work for us, but maybe cause them to want to find out more and learn and take it on for them. One little bit of announcement, and generally this show isn't like, I don't talk about current events or things like that, but I'm really kind of excited because this podcast just got picked up by Audible, and that's
Right.
a major platform that I didn't apply for. All the other platforms, Spotify and iHeartRadio and all these other places, I had to submit it, but somehow I didn't know there was a way to submit to Audible, but they found me, and they've now this podcast is featured on Audible. And just recently I had an agent from an author of a best-selling book contact me about being a guest on the show. So the show's starting to get some reach on its own now, after almost a year. We've been doing this almost a year, and that's almost like the
That's
same
good.
thing. It's like a repetition. Each time we do another show, you know, we get a little better, we get a little more interesting, we're learning how to do it, the show's improving because of just doing it over and over again. And the other thing that I think about sometimes, it's like, well, we have our attitude, our opinions, our how we feel, and that's kind of a real big double-edged sword, right? Because how you feel and what you do, they don't have to have anything to do with each other. And I know people that feel like shit and they're in horrible pain. They can hardly move, they can hardly walk, but you see them and you would never know it. And they'll smile at you and they'll tell you about the nice thing that happened. And they just grit themselves right through this thing. And they don't even, you know, their attitude is the one thing that they control. But by controlling your attitude, you overcome the adversity just by that, right? And so
Totally.
this kind of the same with this, where when it hurts, it's your attitude that's going to decide, well, what are you going to do with that? You know, oh, good, it hurts, that means I'm making progress. Or, oh shit, I'm not going to be able to do this one because this one hurts. How am I going to do, you know, 200 more, or whatever your number is? And then maybe the most important thing is to remember is, as we go through life and you get upset or you get frustrated or saddened or whatever, it's always because of something that happens to you, right? And you don't control any of that. The only thing you control is you. And so this gives you an opportunity to work on you. And I was telling you how, you know, I'm a really intense guy, and people that I know and love, they get put off sometimes because of my intensity, and they'll think I'm angry when I'm not. And that's what really pisses me off, because I'm not mad, but I'm focused or intense or frustrated or whatever. And instead of you being understanding and maybe paying attention and listening, you get put off, and you maybe take a step back because you think I'm angry. And it's like, so what I've learned with this program in the couple months I've been doing it is I'm taking some of that intensity. I'm saying, all right, well, let's use it here. And it turns out you can use it as fuel, because if you're not feeling so good, you're like, well, what happened to all that intensity? Where's that at? Oh yeah, there it is. Okay, get in there and start using it.
Yeah.
And then when you get all done, you're a little bit more mellow. You're a little bit more, and I'm able to stop and think now before I respond and pay attention a little more instead of just doing it. Yeah. So I'm finding that is a benefit that, I'm purposely working on. Again, all I can work on is me. I can't work on you, but if you come to me with a question, I can share with you what I learned about working on me. Maybe it can help you too. And that's what you've been doing.
Yeah. I mean, it's like a give and take. Plus, like, you're 57, I'm 52. We're not 21, 27,
No, we're not.
like we're over the hill, as they would say. But to me, I have more energy than most 20-year-olds.
I agree. There's another bill behind
my
the
mind
hill
is more sharp too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't care if I got gray hair or what. I base myself based on like how I feel,
Right.
and what it has done as far as giving me a better way to sustain, and live life.
Right.
Just by pushing your own body weight. Some of the most strongest people in the world. I mean, look at a gorilla.
Right.
All it does is eat fruit.
They eat grapes.
And plants and fruit. And that thing is like stronger than anybody on the planet.
They're just beasts. That's what the word beast was referring to, was these incredibly ripped friggin' animals that are so strong. It's unbelievable. And like you said, all they're eating is plants. They don't even eat meat at all. They're eating leaves and fruit.
And that's another thing to bring like back into the workout, program is, as far as like a nutritional fact, is what you put into your body is also going to sustain the outcome of your achievements. So like, really, I probably eat maybe two meals a day. But it's light protein. The rest is, plant-based.
Okay.
And I'm actually gaining more weight, eating more fruits and vegetables, and I have more energy than if I'd eat 4 or 5 meals, of, chicken and rice, or, chicken and broccoli 6 times a day.
Yeah.
I don't know. And to me, my body's healing from a lot of other things, like I feel a lot more rejuvenated. And I think like knowing certain fruits, like what ailments that you have, you can add certain antioxidants or certain plants and vegetables into the diet that can counteract against those things that your body is struggling with.
Absolutely.
Like you said, with like what's going on with your lymph nodes.
Yeah, I want to get into that. So
could be more pineapple, like a pineapple, ginger, turmeric, MCT oil, like with blueberries, like do that in the morning or twice a day to see if that, can help, because those are very high in antioxidants and are good for your lymphatic system.
Well, I want to tell you the story of this because I'm going to use this today as a timestamp, because as we're discussing the progress, 8 episodes ago, I began this program. We started talking about it. Now I'm more than halfway through it, at least this first round. And about 3 or 4 months ago, my wife looked at me and says, "What's going on with your neck?" And I don't pay a whole lot of attention. I'm not staring in a mirror. I'm not, I just a regular guy, just doing regular guy stuff. All of a sudden I'm like, what in the hell? I got a lump in my neck, and you can see I can move it around. It's kind of hard.
A little bit, yeah.
And and if I was to, I don't know, get the camera angle right, it's really pronounced.
Yeah, you can really see it.
You look at one side and then you look at the other side, and it's a mass. Anyways, Of course, I had just let my health insurance lapse. We didn't pay the bill and they jacked it up. I'm like, I don't never know, go to the doctor anyway, so I'm fine. And then of course this happened. So I had to go and I needed to go and find out what's up. And so we went to my wife found a doctor local and he somehow she stumbled upon a good one. This is a good guy. I like him, just his mental approach. He hasn't tried to write me a single prescription. And so anyways, he asked me a bunch of questions. He felt around and he said this. He says, well, he says, you look really great for your age. So you're in good physical shape. Says, when he asked me how old I was, I told him, he's like I'm as old as him and he looks like he could be my dad. And so that right off the bat, he noticed. And then he said, well, was asking questions. He started feeling it around and he says, have you lost, are you losing weight? You don't have energy? And I said, no. I mean, I lost weight 5 years ago, but I didn't have this 5 years ago. And I'm now maintaining my weight. I have great energy. I eat good. I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't really drink alcohol. I mean, I'm not that I wouldn't, but I'm not a regular drinker. I don't do things that'll cause me harm. It's like, okay, well, I can tell you're living a good, healthy lifestyle, but you got this thing. So we got to go check on it. He says, but I don't think it's cancer. He says, I'm 95% sure just because of all those things. Plus it doesn't seem me check inside my mouth and the things that would be like, if it was a mass this big and it was cancer, he goes, you'd be in a whole nother world. So that's good news. I go and get an ultrasound. I come back, finally got signed up for insurance. We're figuring it out. But yesterday I went back and got the ultrasound. Now they want to do a CT scan and they're still trying to figure it out. But they said it's solid, not liquid. But he still doesn't think it's cancerous. He thinks it's I said, so what the hell caused this thing? And he says, he says it's probably just genetic. He says you just had a genetic flaw that you got handed and it just caused it to happen. I says, well, I was a painter for 20 years. I've been subjected to a lot of chemicals. I've done a lot of drugs in my life. I've done things that maybe could have caused it. And also I lost a lot of weight and I've been detoxing myself for years now. And maybe sometimes I've heard when you detox too much, you can cause problems because your body's trying to get rid of all the poison that you've accumulated all your life. And where does it go sometimes? So anyways, he says, I don't know. He doesn't think that is. And then I asked him this question. I said, what do you think the chances of it just going away? Because I'd prefer not to have anybody cut it open my neck and because it's sitting right on top of my carotid artery and, things could go wrong. I don't want that. So, and I don't like trusting somebody else with my health. I'd rather trust me. And he says, nah, it's never going to go away on its own. I says, all right, we'll see. And I said, I've got a pretty strong will and I'm willing to do what it takes. And so that was just yesterday. He told me it's never going to go away on its own. So what I started doing, and I can talk about this on this podcast, is I've been a cannabis medicine maker and consumer for 35 years. And I have this cannabis oil that is, high test, pure cannabis extract. And I take it as a capsule now at nighttime. I'm stepping myself up to basically a cancer treatment. And so with this oil, if you can consume 60 grams in 90 days, again, another 90-day program, you can reverse cancers. And I said, well, even if it's not cancer, whatever, if I can get myself this stuff in my body enough without, and still being able to function, it's going to go after this thing. That's number one. Number two, my wife made like a plastic poultice and I smothered it on there at night and then it just sits on there all night long. And number three, like we were talking about, I'm going through these stressors to cause my body to repair itself. So working on this program with you and then doing saunas and cold swims and cold showers and fasting and all of those things, in my mind, it's getting smaller every day. And I just wanted to make this mark as, here we are right now. Let's see what happens as we go forward. But I am seeing, and I'm putting this in words, and I'm putting this out, that this thing's going to get smaller and smaller, and I'm not going to have to get operated on. And if I do, so be it. But my mission right now is to push this thing away. And I'm going to do it through your program and the other things that I'm doing to add to it. And, hopefully we'll be able to see this thing get smaller.
And dark grapes with the seeds, those are best.
Okay.
Eat those, eat the seeds.
All right.
It'll take care of any cancer in the body.
All right.
The number one fruit for cancer is grapes, seeded grapes.
Got it.
Very amazing. Like, and I eat watermelon, I chew the seeds and everything because that's the protein,
Absolutely.
And I have frozen watermelon.
You can hardly find seeded watermelon anymore.
You can't hardly seeded anything.
I know. Everything's seedless now, but they're still out there. Yeah.
And when you get it, I mean, you want the fruit that has the seeds because that, because
it's real.
The same thing you are. You were a seed at one time. You're
exactly. Absolutely.
So that's what I would try, Joe.
Yeah.
I mean, you're more smarter than me. As far as how the body and medicine and everything. I'm anxious to see like what the THC combination, because that ties in your CB2 receptor.
Exactly. I'm going at it with guns ablazing. I got everything locked and loaded, and I'm going at this thing with everything I got. So I'm not. I practice what I preach. I'm doing my own medicine, my own treatments. If I ever suggest anything to anybody else, I guarantee you it's the thing I would do for me, because that's only an opinion. So, well, Richard, we did it again. We burned up 2 episodes, but I really am happy the way that we're going with this, because it's really getting to the heart of the matter, and it's all about your mind. Everything is about your mind, and these tools that we're learning to work on our physical body and overcome a physical ailment. You with your head injury and your joints and all of the problems that you've overcome or are continuing overcoming, and now me with this problem and whatever other issues that I've had in my body. We're going at it, but it's all here. It's all here.
And like you said, as a timestamp, like we're going to see, what takes place.
Right.
Bring you up to speed. Yeah. I've done a lot of, I came from a brain injury. I started this program. I created it from a brain injury. It healed my brain injury. Well, I mean, the normal and tear of the human body, just as my existence, still has its normal deterioration. So when you have a brain injury or any other injury, it can, pretty much speed things up. Or if you have other ailments, you're more susceptible. So one of the things that, like as far as accountability, Joe's known about it is I had been tested for triggers of symptoms of Alzheimer's, and working with Joe with in the past, pretty much from California to transition into Georgia, the focus spray, and I've added I've done a lot of research and looking into MCT oil, and I've been doing 2 tablespoons per day. And I've been doing it for a month, along with the focus sprays, 3 sprays in the mouth. And then I take 2 tablespoons of MCT and oil in the morning. And I tell you what, my clarity of thought is just sharp like a freaking eagle. It's so keen.
I love it.
Like I'm remembering, like when I first got here, an alarm code, oh, it's this. To me, that's all I heard was
right. Then you go to hit it. God dang it! What was that again?
Now I'm just bam, bam, bam. It's in my head. It's like
nice.
And I'm able to do a lot more things throughout the day because I remember to get this done, or I have the whole thought process to focus on, to where I can achieve one goal at a time, and I'm not sporadic throughout the day. And I've noticed that the symptoms have drastically lowered as far as like where I started.
Nice.
So I know with the workout, what I'm putting in my body, more fruits and vegetables, more fruits consistent, and the CBD and that natural remedy, it's pretty much balancing the body to be, like what ailment,
Right.
like it's like the body's amazing. And
Yes.
if you allow yourself to feel that, that's exactly what you'll feel. So I don't look at it as like, oh, it's something that, oh, I'm losing my mind. No, I'm not. I'm regaining my mind.
The thing that's great about the human brain is it's called neuroplasticity. Your brain
Yes.
can refigure itself, even if it gets physically damaged. Like I've had multiple head injuries as a kid or as a young adult, and I've, fortunately my brain still figured itself out. But there's been stories of people that have had massive brain injuries on one side, and the part that normally is working over there, while they were recovering, all of a sudden they regained whatever it was. And then they came and studied it, and they figured out that this part over here is now doing the part that used to do over here. And your brain can rewire itself and it can fix itself. So people, the message of this episode is you can change anything. It's your mindset. This Biohack 40 program, that's what it's all about. There's nothing you can't do. I've seen people reverse stage 4 cancer and go all the way to 0. I'm going to take this lump I've got on my neck and I'm going to make it go away. And one way or the other, sometimes you think you're going to do a thing a certain way and you have to make a different choice. One way or the other, I'm going to make this thing go away because I plan on being around at 120 years old. And I say that out loud right now. Why not? Well, you tell me why not. I can't think of a reason.
I'll be good for 100.
All right. Well, let's see where you're
feeling. Extra 20.
Let's see how you feel.
Depends on if we really want to live that long.
Well, here's the thing, Richard, and this is something that I remember as a kid. When I was 18 years old, I never thought I was going to make it to 30. I was just living a crazy life, and I thought 30 years.
I swear I said the same thing. In fact, it was 35. I didn't rate I was going.
Yeah.
That's why I told myself, you're done at 35.
That's what I thought too. And
I was cool with it.
Now I look at 30-year-olds and my kids are older than 30. And I think to myself, well, you're just a kid. You haven't even got started yet. What do you know at 30? And I think to myself, then came 40 and then came 50. And I'm like, all right, once I hit 50, I was like, you know what, screw this. Why not just take it over to 120? Let's see what we do. And not just 120, I'm alive and a vegetable in a bed. I'm 120 and still living. And that's where I plan to head. Well, listen, we did it again. Yeah. And this time I want to make sure that you get a chance. We're talking about really important things, folks. Richard, you know this program. You built this program. You are this program. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, you're now in Georgia, but it doesn't really matter where you are. You could do this. You could train, teach, coach somebody from wherever you are. How does somebody get a hold of you?
Well, training starts with contact, making that, formal, instead of informal. It's my website, Irish Hayat CBD or Yellow Footprint Fitness. You can send an email. I mean,
and it's all in the link on the podcast. If you click on the podcast to Richard McCuen's profile, it's all there. So just remember, go back to the podcast you're listening, click that little button, and it'll take you how to get a hold of Richard. No problem.
I've had all the excuses. I've had everyone, I know all the excuses. There's no excuses. I built the program like Marcus Luttrell, if you know who he is, the Navy SEAL that crawled across the Afghan freaking ground, under the enemy, freaking trying to kill him, and it's what the mindset. I've already built it from pain. I built it from injuries. The doctor said that I had no chance of survival. So, trying to say that, oh, I can't do this is bullcrap because I've eliminated all that. And I've actually taken all the painfulness of healing out of it for you and designed it so that you can actually enjoy the healing process. And it starts with one push-up. So, or one, shout out. Hey, how can you help me? I feel this way. We're all in the same boat. We're not superhuman, but we're capable of being
capable of anything. And I can testify so far. I'm, like I said, I'm about a little more than 2 months into your program, and I feel great. And I know that I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm saying I'm enjoying it, and it's rewarding, and every day I feel like I accomplish something. Every day I go a place I've never been before, and you think to yourself as you go through your busy day, your day gets over, think to yourself, did I do anything I've never done before? Like, how many days did we go to sleep and we didn't do anything new? Well, every day I'm on this program, I'm doing something new, and just that alone, even if there was nothing else, that's definitely a rejuvenating a fountain of youth all by itself. Well, Richard, we got to take off. I just really enjoy the hell out of our conversations, and I'm looking forward to doing another one soon. And everybody, this has been the Healthy Living Podcast, brought to you by Willow Creek Springs. I'm Joe Grumbine, and this is Richard McCuen, and we will see you next time.